It is a crazy, interesting time in business, in our world, in the economy, everything else. We have this giant cybersecurity wave. Now we've got, we've just navigated COVID, and this stuff is not gonna let up, right? Every business needs to have a true cybersecurity plan, some protections in place, because any one of these things in a lackluster environment could put any one of us out of business. So this stuff is super important. Yeah, I think all businesses need to adapt their security and IT plan. It needs to have, we'll go over these 7 things that every business needs to have kind of in their technology stack. I'm Stephen Taylor, this is WeeklyST. For the last 10 years, I've been building a couple $1 million cybersecurity IT support company, and I'm fascinated with living a wholly successful life. We talk about all this and more every single week. Please like, share, and subscribe. I think there was always a lot of best practices that we implemented and most business had implemented and most are, well aware of, right? You need to have antivirus software. You need to have a good firewall, right? Backups were an important part of that discussion. And that was, they're still important today, but those are kind of the old ways of doing security. Now you've really got to layer up. We keep making the analogy that it's gotten colder outside, the snow is falling, and so you've got to layer up. You've got to put on a coat, extra layers, jacket, hat, all that stuff, right? Some of the things that we've implemented or we implement for our customers, and I think every business needs to implement, 2-factor authentication. Just having a password to log into an account or an application is not enough anymore because that password could get breached or guessed or given away or whatever. 2-factor is not only something your password, but also something you have, a token, a smartphone, to generate another code or what have you. And you're seeing it very much in the banking industry, but we believe it needs to be across the board, in all of these different digital accounts. And on average, we have 130 of them. 2-factor should be on these sensitive things like email or your accounting package or your client data or whatever it might be. I think it's also important to reinvent backups, right? I continue to read the headlines. We continue to see issues of breaches and ransomwares and everything else. And whilst that stuff is preventable, right, you should really have a robust and a secure plan B. And so backups are just not created equal. People really need to look at that system again. It should not be susceptible to the same ransomwares and issues, right? It should be locked down. It should be in multiple locations. It should have version history, right? And it should have the ability to turn up your systems and reboot you, so to speak, should something go horribly wrong. Education, I think, in this landscape is hugely important, right? We as an IT provider or us as businesses can only protect ourselves so much with tools and technology. We have to protect ourselves from our team members, right? And it's not that they're trying to be malicious. It's not that they're doing something purposeful. They may, but, most of the time, everybody's just busy, busy, busy. We've got work to do, and they inadvertently do something they shouldn't have. And without education, they wouldn't even know that they're doing something wrong. And so cybersecurity awareness training, education, all those kinds of things. And sometimes you may already have that from a compliance perspective, right? HIPAA and others, you need to be educating and making your teams aware of what they need to know and how to best protect themselves. Yeah, spam filtering was probably part of that base package from years ago, but yeah, a lot of what's happening comes in via email, and so we've got to be even more secure there. We're trying to add a few different layers there, but a lot of breaches and issues that I've read about or have seen comes in via email, classic phishing email, whatever it might be, right? And so you've got the fake FedExes and the UPS's tracking information, right? You've got, I know your password and I've recorded you on your webcam because I got into your computer, right? Many different styles. Email is inherently insecure. It's one of the most common methods of communication in business today, unfortunately, but we cannot trust it single-handedly, right? If you're ever dealing with money or transactions or anything, I've always educated people, pick up the phone, double confirm, right? You can't just listen and receive via email. You've got to talk to somebody on the phone or text message or whatever it might be to confirm, hey, this is true, wire transfer, this is the invoice, this is what we need to do. Yes, we changed our banking information, whatever it might be. Even when you go to buy a home, that was another way, right? Dealing with title companies and things like that. We had seen man-in-the-middle attacks. Hey, we need you to wire it over here. And it's totally not true. And with wires, you have to be extremely careful because that money will be gone instantly. So another layer that we've been adding is kind of a dark web scan or knowing that your passwords are out there, they've been breached, right? whether it was a data leak from the LinkedIn breach, or, these guys have gotten in and gotten access to this stuff, you need to know that your password has been stolen, or they have it, and then you simply cannot use that password ever again, right? Because if they have, say, your LinkedIn account from years ago, they'll try it in other places. Maybe it's your bank, maybe it's your Facebook, whatever it might be. And so just being aware, that your information and what of your information is out there on the dark web, another super important layer in these new times. That one goes back to basics too, right? But it's surprising how many times I've seen other providers or people in the news, because they're not keeping their stuff up to date. They're not doing the patches. They're not, keeping things new and fresh, right? It is, patching and updating has been a thing forever. But so many kind of do it in a lackluster or we'll wait, or we won't do it right away, or things like that. And you know what? Yeah, sometimes it breaks stuff, but you've got to kind of fight your way through that work, because it's more important to have those patches and have those updates, because they've clearly written them for a reason. There's an issue, there's a hole, there's a gap, and you've got to have those patches and those updates. And I think, my 7th tip on this really is having a good partner, because this landscape changes weekly, if not sooner, and things are always moving and things are always changing. You need a partner that's there for you if you're just not sure, right? Have somebody that you can call to, educate or reinforce, or if something bad goes wrong, somebody there to take care of the problem and fix it and clean it up and everything else. It's really important that you have something of an IT administrator or an MSP or a partner in this, because again, everything is constantly changing. The end question, right, is, do you fully trust the partner that you have currently? Because if you don't, it's time to switch right away.